Hey gang, today we get to take a look at the Fryette Deliverance II Plus. The new, it's like the 20th anniversary, but it's not the 20th anniversary. It's been 20 years of Deliverance from Fryette though. It's a bit of a homecoming for me. Back in the early 2000s, I was sick of all my kind of usual suspects amps that I was frustrated with. And I went into a giant center for guitars, and there was this beautiful amp. Look, this beautiful amp right there. I plugged in and was instantly hooked. Like, oh, this is it. This is what I've been looking for all these years. Yeah, and it's obviously, I mean, this is the longest amp I've ever had an amp. Maybe longest I've ever had anything. So, yeah. I got it when it was labeled with a different company, and you kind of, to understand Fryette Deliverance, you kind of have to understand where it's coming from. You know Fryette now from the Power Station, obviously, that brilliant box that has a game changer box, that's a load box and power amp all in one. In the 80s, Steve Fryette started a company called VHT, and everyone used VHT. His amps were everywhere, but especially his power amps. Steve is a brilliant amplifier engineer, and my goodness, like, it is the power amp, and it is to this day. So when people go, oh, I'm putting together a rack and I need a power amp, I'd say about 9 times out of 10, you're going to see a VHT, and now Fryette, which is Steve Fryette's company, is called Fryette. So Fryette amps have been around for ages. And as Steve was developing his line, he would get requests and kept adding, like, okay, cool, we could do that. Switches, graphic EQ. And it got to the point where his Pitbull amps, which were everywhere also, they had so many switches and knobs and modes. If you didn't know how to use switches and knobs and graphic EQs and stuff, you might dial in something horrendous, you know? So Steve reached in to his amp lineup and pulled out the essential DNA of what a Fryette amp sounds like, and he put it in to the Deliverance, and that's what it was. When the Deliverance came out, my old Deliverance, no effects loop, one channel, one input, you just dialed in your sound, and it sounded awesome. That's it. There was nothing else to it. No foot switches, nothing. Now, Steve has been kind to us over the years, and he has added foot switches, effects loop, channels, and now we are at the 2 Plus. The Deliverance 2 Plus has all the usual outputs and effects loop and stuff on the back. The front might take a little explanation. I'm going to call it a 2-channel amp. It doesn't really define itself that way, but it works that way. So let me show you here. You've got your standard bass, middle, treble equalization here. You've got the power amp controls, depth and presence. This is classic Fryette stuff. You find this on the VHT Classics, the 2150s, all of the amp line. Now let's check out the gain and master sections. In this case, it's easier to think of this as a 1-channel amp. Gain 1 voicing goes from clean to a nice overdrive, and then here's your master volume. If you would like your tone to have the bright switch engaged, you flip bright up. If you would like your tone to have more gain, you flip more, and this activates the next gain stage, which is the gain 2 overdrive. And now these two work together. This is kind of a lovely setting. This is a lovely setting. So like there. Between 10 and 2 to me works best here, but there are lots of variations you could do and endless colors between the two. There you go. If you don't want bright engaged, you could take that out. And if you want less gain, you switch out more, it'll deactivate that gain stage and you're back to the single over here. Now this is where the 2-channel amp comes into play. If you hit solo will switch over to another master volume, which is really effective. Now you could either have a clean and a dirty with separate master volumes to balance them out, or you could have a clean and a bright, How do you do that? Well, whatever you would like assigned to the solo volume, you push down to select solo. If you want, when you go to solo, for it to have the bright engaged, you activate it there. If you would like the solo to have more overdrive, you select it there. If not, you leave it up or into the center if you don't want it at all. So basically, you're assigning what characteristic you would like to this solo volume. So you have 2 channels of variation there. I'm running through the Fryette Deliverance 412. There are cabinets and then there are cabinets, guys. Just so you know. Not all cabinets are created equal. The Fryette cabinets are fantastic. They're big and broad sounding. This cab is loaded with the Fane FG70 speakers. That's a design that Steve worked with Fane to do, and they're rad. How do you like that for my editorial commentary? Those speakers are rad. They are, I'll say, never harsh. And they have this character of going from low, where you have enough cut and bite and fullness, and then as you go up the neck, the cut sort of warms up. So it gets fat, and those notes stay fat and big without getting harsh and piercing. That's what you're hearing. I'm miking it with an SM57 and a Soyuz 1973 large diaphragm condenser. Mostly it's the SM57, but the Soyuz sort of helps capture what I'm hearing as I stand in front of this a little more. Sometimes 57 is just like, that doesn't sound like what I'm hearing. So I'm doing my best to capture what it sounds like right here. And it's loud, so you're welcome. We're in the less gain mode now, so only gain 1 voicing knob is active with the master volume. And here is the EQ. This is, kind of as clean as it gets. Let's go up a little more. Oh, yeah, okay. It's a 120 watt head with 6550 power amp tubes. The power amp tubes don't matter because it's a Fryette amp. So, we could talk about that another day, but whether it's 6L6s, EL34s, 6550s, Fryette does his Merlin magic on the tubes to make them sound like whatever he wants him to make it sound like. And he's not doing clones of things. So this is not a 60s British amp EL34 thing that he's trying to recreate. It's Fryette. So 6550, 120 watts, it puts out some volume. And it's a big, heavy head. And according to Steve, if you want an amp to sound like a big-ass amp, you gotta have a big-ass amp. That's how it works. Big transformers, big power supplies, the whole shebang. Even if you're going to run it through a load box, even if you're attenuating, the 120 watt beast of an amp still is required to give you that 120 watt badass amp feel. Back to that clean sound, add the bright to that? Easy. I'm going to switch up the bright. Now, on a Strat style guitar, that might be a bit much. But you have easy access to bright if you like. This is typically where I like this gain 1 voicing to be around 1 o'clock. Big volume bump there. A nicer thing it would be to switch that to solo, and now I have some control over my volume. So two channels. Just chewy and beefy with cut in all of the right places. Now, speaking of cut, let's go to the brights on this bright switch. So let's turn it on. The presence control is broad and really forgiving on the 2 Plus, so like let's crank it up. I would never do that on most amps. throw on the power station, pull the volume down, turn up the master volume. Yeah, that's right. If you're unfamiliar with the power station, this is how it works. You plug your amp output, like as if you were going to run to the speaker. You run it into the power station. Power station is a load box, so it's a reactive load box. Someone would get mad at me if I didn't say that probably. So it takes all of the volume and just holds it there and then runs it through its own power amp. And now this power amp, which is a cleaner, more neutral power amp, then that goes to the speaker. So you could set this to however loud you want. It hits this, and then you set it however quiet or loud you want back out at 50 watts rather than 120 watts, which is quite nice. You could also run this directly, a line out directly into your DAW or anything else, and do a cab sim on it. So it's crazy versatile. If you don't know what it is, I have videos on it, so go check that out. So if I turn this off, we're going back to 120 watts. Oh my God, that's so loud. Turning it on, it just took the load. And it brought it down to a reasonable level. Why, thank you. All right, let's go. Let's just move the master volume up. And I could lower that if I want. And now you have all of these colors to play around with. So that is the Fryette Deliverance II Plus, a great evolution of an already great amp. I still love my original, and I kind of can't help feeling that I maybe like this a little more. It's just a little more three-dimensional, a little more lovely and welcoming to the playing. So beautiful amp. I'll put some links below. Fryette has a full website. They've got dealers and stuff like that. So, you know, I'll put some links below so you can check out some more Fryette stuff. And we'll catch you later. Thanks for watching.